Week 3 is upon us, and we are ready with our game picks of the week. Um, Jake, what are you sitting at after 2 weeks in terms of your game picks?
After 2 weeks, I am sitting at 20 and 12 in my picks.
Oh, jeez, are you kidding me? What'd you go last week?
I went 11 and 5 last week.
Oh, that hurts. I went 12 and 4 last week, but I'm at 19 and 13. So, I mean, we're pretty close still. I guess it's anyone's game. But how are you doing in your upset picks?
My upset picks, I'm 5 and 3.
Dang, I'm 4 and 3 in that. You got me by one again. And who were your locks again? The first 2 weeks of the season.
First 2 weeks of the season, my lock was Denver over the Giants in week 1, and then week 2 was Seattle over the Titans. So I'm 1 and 1 in my locks.
And I am 0-2 in my locks because now last week I decided to pick Kansas City because I was like, how often can I feel like okay about picking Kansas City? And that didn't work out now either. And I honestly already forgot who I locked up week 1. The Patriots. Yeah, that's right. So, I'm pretty miserable with my locks, but maybe we can change that this week. Are you ready to talk about some week 3 NFL games? And
Yeah, let's get
it's
into it.
I will say it's nice that we're both starting out. I think, well, now this is actually the third week in a row that we've correctly picked the Thursday night game. So, I mean, we've gotten off to a hot start every week at least. So, all right, first game up, Chargers at Chiefs. What are you thinking here?
I've liked what I've seen from Justin Herbert and the Chargers offense. Last week was kind of lackadaisical from them. That defense, though, Joey Bosa has looked awesome. With that being said, Kansas City lost last week, and Patrick Mahomes doesn't lose in September, so I feel like that's going to be a big kick in the keister for him. And they're going to Arrowhead. I don't really see the Chiefs losing this game as much as I love the Chargers and their whole outlook for the whole season.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going on the path of KC here. Uh, mostly because I don't see the Chiefs losing 2 games in a row very often, and
Hmm.
also because all offseason, I've kind of been talking about how I think Justin Herbert allows this team to beat anybody, and it could very well be this week. But I'm waiting for that game later in the season where I really think he may be able to catch the better of the Chiefs, and I don't expect it coming off a week where Kansas City just lost. That may be a
Hmm.
hard thing to swing. They got a short week later in the season when they play, so I think that helps it a lot. And I just like KC in this one, which I don't think is shocking because they're still one of the best teams in the NFL.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think that's any shocker to anyone that we both agree there for the first pick.
Okay, nothing special there. But what about Cardinals Jags? I don't really want to hear a strong opinion about the Jaguars here.
Um, well, I don't know if you'll get a strong opinion out of the Jaguars from me, but I feel like week 1, if you would have told me, and I haven't seen any of these games, you just said, yeah, the Cardinals started off 2 and 0, I would say, okay, well, they're going to lose to Jacksonville week 3 then. Uh, because it seems like such a Cardinals thing for them to do that. But with how Kyler's been playing, and it seems like no matter what Cliff Kingsbury does, he's calling good games. And I mean, I read to you a meme last week where it's just the whole play sheet's just like let Kyler do whatever he wants.
Love
Um,
that.
and I think if they keep up that game plan, they could just torch Jacksonville, especially with J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones too against that weak offensive line. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he could take advantage of the guys in the secondary not named Buda Baker, but he's going to need time to do that, and I don't think that offensive line gets him time.
Yeah, I don't think that the Jags are ready for MVP Kyler Murray. I think he's going to be able to do a little bit too much to you know, be slowed down enough to have the Jags keep up. The Jags offense has not been very good this far, and really, I mean, neither side of the ball has been for them because they haven't been doing too well on either side. But the defense only allowed 23 in week 2, which was better than week 1. Um, I'm guessing the Cardinals will put up more points than that, but I guess you could say that the Cardinals defense is a little worse than the Broncos. But
Hmm.
honestly, I still probably see this as like a 10-point game. I don't think the Jaguars are going to be able to keep up unless Trevor Lawrence really has what I would say would have to be like his best game thus far. And it'd have to be really efficient, no turnovers once again, and honestly probably slow the game down and run the ball a fairly decent amount. If not, complete short passes to keep the clock moving, anything like that. But I think if they try to go into any sort of shootout with these guys, they're going to lose by at least 10 points.
Yeah, Urban Meyer has said that every week we're playing Bama. Well, he's about to play Texas Tech this week, so I hope he's ready for that.
Jesus. I guess you're right. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to Arizona in that one. I think that came off pretty obviously, but yeah, just say it clearly. Bears at Browns. What are you thinking in this one?
You don't know how badly I want to pick the Bears to be an upset in this game, to beat the Browns. Like, I love Justin Fields, and I want him to win that first career start just to show Matt Nagy. But this is the worst game for him to have his first career start. Like, I joked about it. I joked about it in like May, like, oh yeah, Matt Nagy's gonna start Andy Dalton those first two games, and then against the Browns, yeah, let Justin Fields start that game. I know it's an injury that caused this, but oh, it's just a very not good situation to put Justin Fields in for his first career start. It's not gonna make him look good, because that Browns defense is good. Baker Mayfield's going to be dealing. He loses Jarvis, but gets Odell now, so it's not even going to have to worry about spreading the ball out and hurting anyone's feelings. It's just, oh, well, Odell's my guy, at least for the next couple of weeks. And Nick Chubb is always going to be great. As much as the Chicago's defense played a great game last week, it was against the Bengals. The Bengals are very much different than the Browns, so I'm going to go with Cleveland in this one.
I want to talk about the Bengals, but we'll get to them eventually. The Bears and Browns, yeah, this is an awful matchup for the first week of Justin Fields. Roster-wise, I mean, I still think the Browns are one of the best teams in the NFL. Really hard to point out positions that are weak for them. The Bears, on the other hand, I feel like kind of have not looked the best on offense, even like when Justin Fields has stepped in a limited capacity. It really hasn't been that great. And this is kind of just like the last game we talked about, where I actually think the better team just has too much ability on offense for the other team to keep up. And the Browns are at home, so the Bears even don't get that swinging in their favor. Pretty tough first start in terms of the talent on the opposing sideline for Justin Fields in his first game. So yeah, I'm going with Cleveland as well.
Yep. As much as I want him to win, I just that game, if I take an L in that one, completely fine with it, because I will be taking a dub with Justin Fields winning his first career start.
Yes, I understand that. Oh, sorry. You ready for Washington at Buffalo? Yeah. I'm sorry. I should probably actually keep track of whether or not you know who we're talking about next.
Yeah. Yeah, I am ready for Washington at Buffalo. I'm gonna be there. It's Bill's home game. And you pointed this out last week when we were recapping all the game, or not last week, but when we were recapping all the week 2 games. You said Washington knows how to stop Josh Allen, overload the right side, make him roll out left. I think they're going to do that. I think Washington's going to win because of that, because they have the talented edge rushers to just blow up that offensive line and force Josh Allen to make bad decisions. He isn't flipping his hips like you pointed out, and that's making his throws look bad. His throws have looked bad when he is just standing in the pocket. The run game has improved for the Bills, and that defense is great too. This could be a very low-scoring game, like a 10-3 kind of game. But I'm taking Washington in an upset in this one.
I'm not feeling low scoring. I don't think so, because I do think Taylor Heinicke is going to be able to move the ball, which is kind of strange considering the Bills defense has only let up 17 against like a 18-year vet QB, and then 0 against a team the following week. And I mean, that's not like saying, oh, the Dolphins offense is anything special at this point, but allowing 0 to another team is kind of strange, especially, I mean, it doesn't happen often, and it's still NFL quality players. So with that being said, saying that Taylor Heineke's going to be able to move the ball may be a little surprising, but I mean, he's just really efficient in the first few games that we've seen him, and I don't know. I don't know if just based off playoff game one and then his first start last week, if it's going to be enough to really have any sort of game plan to stop what he's been doing, because it's really just seemed like it's natural to him. It doesn't feel like it's anything too crazy with play design. So I mean, maybe in the future, there's always that game that eventually somebody runs into a opponent who finally does something different against you, where you can finally see, okay, this is how to slow this down at least. And like the best example of that is the Rams facing the Patriots in the Super Bowl, finally finding someone who actually figured out how to stop what you were doing well. And I don't think the Bills have the key to that yet, so I think Washington's going to be able to put points on the board. I'm hoping that the Bills can put up more points. I'm not confident like you are that Washington's going to win for sure. But yeah, no, I'm not overlooking this game. Like, this is definitely a game I think the Bills can lose, but I think it's a close matchup and we're the home team, so I'm taking the Bills.
The Bills can't be caught looking ahead to next week facing off against Davis Mills. You got to focus on this one against Taylor Heinicke.
Yeah, and the worst part of this really is that the Bills are catching teams 2 weeks in a row that come off Thursday, which means they get extended rest while the Bills just have normal rest periods. That's pretty unlucky in the NFL. Luckily, only next week is the Texans, but that could give Washington an advantage in this game. And I'm like I said, I'm not very confident about this game at all.
Mm. Oh yeah, me too. That's why I picked Washington to win in an upset.
Indianapolis at Tennessee. Who you got?
Yeah, this game's gonna be miserable. I just think Tennessee's gonna steamroll Indy. Carson Wentz, if he does play, is going to be playing on like two sprained ankles that are healing. Carson Wentz gets hurt easily and re-injures himself easily. And Brett Hundley has been taking all the starting reps in practice when Wentz hasn't, from what I've read. I like Brett Hundley. I'd prefer if Jacob Eason, not that this matters, because I still think the Titans would win no matter who the starting quarterback is for the Colts. But yeah, I picked the Colts to beat the Titans at home. But earlier in the season. But this one is just gonna be Derrick Henry running over another NFL team that is just down on their luck because of the schedule makers and not having your starting QB. If Wentz doesn't play, but if he does play, he's not going to be at 100%.
Yeah. The first 2 weeks of the year, I haven't really picked enough upsets, I would say. There was like one upset too many. Week 1 and week 2, I should have tried to pick another one. That way I could have gotten more wins. And Indianapolis has always surprised me with, the fights they're able to put up when, like, especially when I'm the lowest on them. And, like, I really feel low on the Colts right now at 0-2. And because I feel so low on the Colts and Tennessee didn't drop to 0-2, that's very important. Because if Tennessee dropped to 0-2, I would feel even more confident. Like, I was confident picking them last week because I didn't think they'd drop to 0-2. I'd be even more confident this week that they wouldn't drop to 0-3. The fact that they're 1-1 coming off a kind of impressive victory in Seattle, I think leaves the door open on this one. And just because of that, Indianapolis in the past, when I thought Tennessee should run away with the games, has stayed in it and even won games I wasn't expecting. It's a divisional game. So, even though Carson Wentz injury is kind of all over the place, let's say it's a down week for the Titans, and I'm just feeling divisional matchup down week for the Titans. I'll take the Colts.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. So, the Carson Wentz news is pretty tough, but we'll see how it plays out. They surprised me. They surprised me a lot, especially, and they're the 0-2 team this time, whereas the Titans were the team I couldn't really see dropping to 0-2 last week. I can't see the Colts are. We talked about this. The Colts are a good roster. I mean, geez, if they drop to 0-3 this week, they're probably about to spiral and go to 0-5.
So, you're saying that if Brett Hundley is the starting QB, he has to go back to his UCLA swag in order to win this game for the
Well,
Colts.
yes, I've talked to you about this, that I hate that just backup QBs getting to the NFL just decided to completely turn their swag meter to zero. But yeah, no, it doesn't matter the starter. I don't want to do any if statements in terms of picking games, so I'm going with the Colts either way. But
Okay. Okay. Okay.
next game, the News are facing off. New Orleans at New England. What are you thinking here?
Uh, well, I went back and I looked at the two Saints games because I wanted to see why did they beat the Packers and it was so bad, and why did they lose to the Panthers? And I looked back at that; it was just ball control. Bill Belichick's defense is going to be the best defense that they've played so far these first 3 weeks.
Whoa,
I,
whoa, whoa! You gotta slow your roll because
oh, I
I
know
mean
the
not
Panthers are
not
statistically the best.
yeah,
I know
not
the Panthers
us,
are
but
statistically the best
other people are freaking out that the Panthers are the
Yes,
best defense
because
in the league.
they've played three or two garbage teams and one team that we're still like out on and we don't know yet, and that's this team in New Orleans. But Bill Belichick's defensive unit is consistently the best coached, even when they were garbage last year. They were still a well coached defense. And if Jameis can't just sit back in the pocket and just easily make his reads and guys get open, having 3, 4 seconds to stand back there, which Bill Belichick isn't going to give him, uh, I can't really see the Saints winning this one unless Alvin Kamara takes over and he just runs all over the place. But even then, Mac Jones and that offense, they've been looking good. They've been looking good. I mean, they had some stumbles against that Jets defense, which is not good at all, but neither really is the Saints. I mean, that secondary is pretty weak. They got Cam Jordan. Uh, yeah, I'm going with New England. I mean, this one I feel like I would just pick whoever the home team is, really. If New Orleans was home, I might lean more towards them, but I'm going with New England here.
I wouldn't lean home team. It seems like in the end, every time we've seen New Orleans play New England, it's always ended up being that New England has been able to come out on top. And their quarterback matchups have been fairly even over the years. I trust Mac Jones to protect the ball more than Jameis Winston, just on your average Sunday. On your average Sunday, I don't see Mac Jones going out there and firing 2 or 3 picks. So, with that being said, I'm going with New England, mostly because I actually feel these teams are pretty even, but also because of the fact that when we've seen this matchup in the past, Belichick has been able to generally get the better of Sean Payton in the end, and that's just how I think it'll continue to go.
Your major blunder there is assuming that Jameis Winston thinks Sundays are average. Neither of them are average for him. Every Sunday is on one end of the spectrum for Jameis Winston.
Yeah, but Mac Jones is chilling right in the middle of the road, so I guess going on the road against New England, fairly confident in that defense, I'd lean towards the bad side of Jameis for this
Oh,
week.
yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah. Next game, Falcons at Giants. I have to say, I have a. You may not have expected me to have something in this game, but I do have something for this game. One of my special games of the week. So, what are you thinking?
It's a special game for me too, because this is
Really?
my lock of the week. Is this both of our locks? That's great. That's great. I'm locking in Atlanta to win this game on the road against the Giants. I mean, this is really just two teams that, I mean, from what we saw last week from the Giants, great offense. That defense sputtered a little bit at the end, but it's solid. Atlanta's defense, though, it doesn't even sputter. It's just not really there. You got to go shot for shot with the team. And I've been manifesting it all offseason just to see a game with Atlanta in it where it's just both teams are scoring and there's not a single stop and it just comes down to whoever has the ball left. It's going to be this game. And I'm picking Atlanta and locking Atlanta in because they get to call the coin flip to start it off. so they get to determine if they have the ball last or not, or first in the second half. So I'm going with Atlanta.
That's important, but also, I mean, even still, you don't know how the clock's going to play out in the first half. Because if New York goes to halftime with a 7-point lead because they score with no time left in the half, then Atlanta gets the ball and they score a touchdown to match it, and then, the Giants have it. So I don't know if you can always say that, because also, on the other hand, you could get it that Atlanta closes the half if they manage the clock well, which is not something that we've seen Atlanta do extremely well in recent years. So that makes me lean Giants, just talking about that. But also the fact that the Falcons have literally not been able to stop anyone in the Bucks, or the Eagles week 1, who really were not an offense that we were like clamoring to be like, oh geez, this is going to be the best offense of the season, the Philadelphia Eagles. And Giants scored 29 last week, should have been 32 points against a Washington defense that I'm not ready to give up on yet. Like, there's still a lot of talent on that defense. The fact that they were able to put up 29, which should have been 32, against that defense is pretty impressive. And going against Atlanta's defense, I feel like you should only feel more confident about the Giants. Giants are also the home team. I can't say MetLife is the most, friendly home environment. It's not like, it doesn't give you the biggest advantage, but it's probably better than having to go to Atlanta to play. And I just feel like the Giants will be able to force a few stops, and I think that's all they really need to do to be able to outscore the Falcons, so I'm locking up the Giants. So,
Right, well,
if your Falcons lock is correct, then I'm going to be 0-3 in locks, and this is going to suck. But, oh boy.
can't wait.
Bengals at Steelers. Oh, wait, we should have this discussion really quick. Have we interpreted like how we're gonna do this at the end of the year? So it'll probably be just overall record is the real winner. But if our overall records are tied, are our tiebreakers first upsets or are they locks of the week? I think it probably should be locks, right?
It should be locks because there will be less of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and then upsets would be the final thing in case. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me, but I'm not starting off very hot in the lock department, so I don't. It will help me this week because if even though I'm 0-2, if the Giants win, then we're even. So there. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. Who are you going with?
I need to stay on brand over these past couple weeks. I've picked against Pittsburgh every single week. I'm going to stay on brand, and I'm going to pick Cincy in an upset against them. Joe Burrow was dealing towards the end of that game against the Bears. The Bears were kind of just, letting up on defense, not really playing tight. I think the Raiders gave a pretty good game plan on how to beat the Steelers last week. And the Bengals kind of have the personnel to execute that. I mean, they have a better receiving core than the Raiders do to torch the Steelers. The main thing is, though, TJ Watt's going to be back, and the Bengals don't really have anyone to block him. But I'm still feeling confident in Cincy there.
I'm gonna give you reasons that Pittsburgh's gonna win this game, and then I'm gonna take Cincinnati.
Exactly.
No, I'm not gonna give you reasons Pittsburgh's gonna win this game. I'm gonna give you reasons that Pittsburgh's gonna lose this game, though. Last week I picked Joey B, and he threw one pick six that screwed me over. Really, that game was close, and I'm still confident in Joe Burrow, so I'm gonna say that he's not gonna do that this week. I think that the Bengals can keep up with the Steelers in terms of how many points they score. And why are you going crazy about this? You haven't even heard all my reasons yet.
Well, if you I love it. I love it. It stays on brand.
Okay. Well, yeah. Then the other thing, now we're hearing that Ben Roethlisberger already is feeling hurt, and when he feels hurt, his play declines fairly quickly. If not, that means that we'll have a backup stepping in, and I can't say that I'm too confident that those backups will step in and not turn the ball over. I feel like if the Bengals protect the ball unlike they did last week, then they'll be able to put enough points on the board where they can hold off the Steelers. This is a game that I would say I'm expecting to be more low scoring as long as the teams don't decide to trade a ton of turnovers, which I wouldn't expect. But I am expecting 1 or 2 from Pittsburgh, and I think that will be the difference in the game. Although, yeah, somebody like TJ Watt could get a strip sack and change the game in the Steelers' favor, which I don't see as completely unlikely. It's just it's because of Ben, really, not being fully healthy. I think that allows the Bengals to be able to either Ben play. I should have said this before. Either Ben plays hurt and they don't move the ball as efficiently, which already they weren't moving the ball too well, but it even drops from there. Or he doesn't play / he gets pulled because he's hurt. And the guy who steps in for him turns the ball over a few times, and the Bengals are able to win just because I don't think Joe Burrow is going to be a turnover prone 2 weeks in a row. So I'm picking the Bengals.
Have some faith in Josh Dobbs, bro.
I would have faced actually you're kind of right. I may pick the Steelers if I thought Josh Dobbs was stepping in, but everything that I know about Pittsburgh points to the fact that I think Mason Rudolph would step in instead of Josh Dobbs. But yeah, no, I'm actually on the same page with you on that, but I think Mason Rudolph's the backup.
Yeah.
Next game, Baltimore at Detroit. I need you to tell me that Detroit is about to win this game.
Unfortunately, I cannot do that. Detroit has kept their games close, though, these past 2 weeks. But the Ravens, they just came off a great win against Kansas City. Detroit's defense looked bad against the run first 2 weeks. Kind of an important thing to be good against when you go against the Ravens. Maybe Dan Campbell could turn it up and make some adjustments for this week, but I'm going Baltimore all the way.
Have you seen how many people are like, this is just talks about like people just not willing to analyze things at all. Look how bad the Chiefs' run defense is. Yeah, they played like what we would preseason rank as the 2 best rushing teams in the league. Of course, their run defense looks bad. Like what are you talking about? Sorry, just had to throw that note in there since we're already past the Chiefs and we haven't mentioned that. I'm just like, dude, Think about it for longer than 2 seconds. There's a reason that's happening. I'm on the same page with you. The Lions kind of held it close between them and the Packers in the first half of their game, but didn't. The second half they looked like a team that's not as talented as Green Bay in terms of just being able to do things like fumbling the ball from under center and eventually running out of gas on the offensive side of the ball. And of course the San Francisco game was close because San Francisco played prevent the entire second half of the game to allow them to get back into it. So with that, I think the Ravens, just because, quality of their team is still much above the Lions. The Lions are the home team. Maybe that gives them a few points so that they don't get completely blown out in this one. But I wouldn't expect this one to be too close. I think you're right. I think Baltimore's going to be able to run the ball like it's no one's business, and I don't think they'll have to pass much, but I'm guessing by the end of the game, the Lions will try to be having to try to throw the ball a lot to keep up with the Ravens running the ball so effectively. I'd say the Ravens are going to win by at least 10 points.
Yeah, you don't really want Jared Goff to be the guy with the ball that you need to just huck it 50 times in order to win the game.
Well, I mean, I always love talking about Jared Goff and saying things like you don't want him to be this guy, and then remembering that he beat Patrick Mahomes 54-51 in a game at one point in his career.
Yeah, throwing the ball 50 plus times in that game too. So yeah.
And if you remember correctly, well, I mean, this may be hurting the stock of Jared Goff when you talk about that game, but also the fact that the QB who was turnover prone in the Patrick Mahomes versus Jared Goff game of the century basically was Patrick Mahomes and not Jared Goff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, those were 2 defensive touchdowns that helped Jared Goff's point total look better. So that may have swung it. But yeah. Next game, Jets at Broncos. I mean, Zach Wilson, big upset candidate for this week, or no?
Not for me. No, not for me. I think the newly dubbed Teddy Roosevelt in Denver will come out on top here. Mo- Denver's offense, I mean, even without having that stud QB that we were saying would make them Super Bowl contenders if they had it, even without him, against the Jets defense, I think Teddy could just matriculate down the field with the receivers at his disposal and that defense. I mean, Zach Wilson had a rough time against Bill Belichick. He's gonna have a rough time against Vic Fangio. I feel bad for the kid.
I I don't think it's going to be as tough against Vic Fangio as it would be against the Patriots, especially coming straight off the Patriots week. I feel like there's going to be a lot of learning moments from it. But I do think it's not going to be easy. I think that it'll be tough to move the ball against them. And, just being able, like you said, for the Broncos to control the ball, which I think they've done pretty well in their first two games of the season. Even though it's been against pretty bad teams, they get a third bad team in a row, and I don't see why that trend is going to change. I'm going to be really interested to see who I end up picking for Denver games in the future when they have somebody who's not, basically a cupcake on their schedule. I'm sorry to say that about the Giants, Jets, and Jaguars, but, that's my honest opinion, and I'm picking Denver again this week. Yeah, so.
Blame you for that.
Dolphins at Raiders. You know, I I don't really. I want there to be like some sort of narrative here, just because of how the game was fun last year between these two teams. But I don't know if going into the game this year, especially after what we saw from both these teams week 2, that there's gonna be much rooting interest from one side in terms of people picking them that are unbiased in this game.
Yeah. I think Jacoby Brissett gives your team a better chance to win the football game than Tua. Uh, but the Raiders are on fire as of late. They're coming off a big win for them against the Steelers. I'm gonna go Vegas. I I mean, you go with the hot hand when you're in Vegas, so I'm gonna go with the hot hand that's stationed in Vegas. Uh, the Dolphins don't have their QB. I mean, you could argue that they didn't have their QB when they had Tua playing. That defense didn't look great against like a Buffalo team that sputtered last week, and they still put up 35 points. And that offense couldn't put up any points last week either. And I'm not saying that the Raiders defense is as good as the Bills, but I think that they have better edge rushers in Max Crosby, Carl Nassib, a plethora of other guys. So I'm going with Vegas.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to point to. I don't think after what we saw from the Dolphins offensive line last week that it's going to improve much against the Raiders defensive line that seems to have really been playing well early in this season. Um, Besides that, I don't feel like it takes much after a pass rush to really slow down this Dolphins offense. I mean, they're probably going to
Mhm.
put up more than 0 points this week. I'll say that. But once again, the Raiders offense has been looking good in the first 2 weeks of the season. 26 against a very stout Pittsburgh defense is impressive. And of course, a Baltimore defense that isn't any slouches. They got 30 plus up on them as well. So, that's just two good numbers to put up in a row, and I don't think the Dolphins are really the Dolphins defense is really at the level of Pittsburgh's or Baltimore's. So I would say that the Raiders will still be able to put up a solid number of points, and the Dolphins offense was sputtering, and I don't think that it's going to start, uh, you know, looking much different. And the Raiders are the home team, which just helps even more. So I'm taking the Raiders.
Yeah, yeah.
Next, we have the Buccaneers going to the Rams. And honestly, this is probably like the game of the week, just in terms of like the whole weekly slate. So, what are you thinking here?
Well, I mean, I'm sticking with my decision, but I saw that on some ESPN show, the panel, they had them pick the game. Everyone on the panel picked the Rams, and then it's just the screenshot of like all of them with their face in their hands. It's like we know what we just did. We just picked the Rams to lose because we all agreed on the Rams to win. But I'm picking the Rams in an upset against the Buccaneers. they've been rolling these past couple of weeks. I mean, outside of a special teams mishap against the Colts, which was really like the only error. Cooper Kupp can have another close to 200-yard receiving game like he did against the Colts, which I don't know if it's going to happen against Tampa Bay. But that secondary is the weakest part of Tampa Bay right now with some of the guys that are missing. I think Matt Stafford can take advantage of that. Tampa's going against a team that has a good offensive line and has all their starters there too, because Dallas also has a good offensive line. Was missing some starters in their Week 1 game. And yeah, this is going to be like the Dallas game, except I think the Rams make less mistakes than what Dallas did, and some better coaching decisions as well.
I think this game's really close.
Oh yeah,
I'd really be fine picking either of the teams, and I was gonna pick the Rams as an upset, but I don't need it. And I think earlier I was thinking I needed it as an upset game. And once again, I probably should have at least one more upset on my list because, we have our minimum required 3, and I think there's at least going to be 4 every week of the NFL season that we really need to pick. But if I'm really talking in terms of who I actually think is going to win this game, it's Tampa Bay. The hard part about this is that I don't think Tampa Bay is going to go undefeated this year. I think it's very hard to do that in the NFL. I know it's crazy to say that it's hard to go undefeated in the NFL, but I do think it is. Maybe that's what Brady is still playing for. Maybe he just really wants that undefeated season to go off into the sunset because he didn't get it in 2007. And, he says that he'd trade in like 3 Super Bowls just for that because he thinks that's that impressive. But I think it's tough, and it's tough on a weekly basis to try to pick the team that'll finally knock off the Bucs. I think the Rams are a good option. So if you want to be able to say at the end of the season, yeah, the Bucs went 16-1, and I actually picked the game that they lost. Like I actually knew when they were going to lose. It's kind of a good pick, but really, I don't know how often I want to go against the Buccaneers. And I'd still say, just with how the Bucs have played compared to the Rams early in the season, I think the Bucs have been honestly just more efficient with how they've been playing the game. I think the Rams have shown that they make a few mistakes a game, and especially with you talking about a full ESPN panel picking the Rams, and now you on top of it, it definitely pushes me even more so away from it if it's a popular opinion. I do not want to be going against the Bucs if that's a popular opinion. Maybe if it was an unpopular opinion, but nah, I'm not doing that. I'm picking the Bucs now.
It's such an unpopular opinion that it's popular. Like you want to be the person that's like, yeah, I'm gonna pick that. Like you said, I'm gonna pick that one game that the Buccaneers are gonna lose. That's what everyone's trying to do. It's just everyone on that panel thought the same thing. And ESPN, where's my job? Because I think just like me and Kimes, if that's the case.
Yeah. I'm hoping that the Buccaneers got most of their crappy turnovers out of themselves week 1, while the Rams have kind of just had like a few mistakes like each week of the first 2 weeks of the season that I've been like, and I feel like that's still gonna happen. It's tough though. It's close, and especially because the Rams are the home team, that helps even more. It'll be a very good game. I'm excited for this one. And honestly, in terms of the 4 o'clock window, it's probably really the only game in the 4 o'clock window that's has much interest from me.
You're saying that this last game for us is not of interest in the 4 o'clock window?
It's of interest. I would say it's not as nearly as interesting to me as Bucs Rams. Like I had the weird fascination with Minnesota and Arizona last week, but I got a pretty good fix of both those teams I wanted to see last week. So, it's not as much. These two teams kind of are teams that I'm just like talking about Seattle and Minnesota, just teams that I'm not really. They just, for whatever reason, I'm turned off by them. Something they do. I mean, they're interesting to a point, but not nearly as interesting as the Bucs and Rams. But tell me what you're thinking about this one.
Well, I've said this so many times, I'm just beating a dead horse, but I gotta stay on brand. And on brand is hating the Vikings. So I'm picking Seattle to win this one here. I know that Minnesota has a fantastic home field advantage. And I mean, it's on par with Seattle's home field advantage. I think that Mr. Unlimited though, uh, has a better game than Kirk Cousins. I was gonna try to give him a Mr. nickname, but I mean Mr. Beige. He's so boring. But Russ and DK and Tyler Lockett, who Lockett has just been on fire these first 2 weeks. I think that overwhelms Minnesota's mediocre defense. I mean, Kirk Cousins has showed that he can drive down the field when it matters. He did it last week, kicker missed. Um, I I'm gonna go with Seattle here. I understand though if you pick Minnesota, and I think you do because you need one more upset.
Yeah, you're right. The the Seahawks have had this tendency, especially recently when playing the Vikings, and generally most teams they play against to keep games close. Um, they really last year when they played had huge luck in terms of how many breaks they had at the end of the game to be able to pull off their win against Minnesota. If you remember that game, they
Oh yeah.
barely squeaked that one out by the skin of their teeth. And you know, it, I I feel like the game's gonna play generally the same way as you said. Minnesota's the home team. First 2 weeks of the season, they had to go on the road for both of those. They've got to have an awful taste in their mouth after losing in overtime week 1 and then losing week 2 because they didn't make a 37-yard field goal on the last play of the game. It's got to feel pretty terrible being a Vikings fan right now, and I feel like they're, still a good enough team that they should be able to win. They should be able to win a close game eventually. So if I think this game's going to stay close, like it has in the past, then I think that the Vikings eventually have to get a win. They're the home team. Hopefully it doesn't come down to kicking because that seems to be their kryptonite at the start of this season. But we'll see. I'm picking Minnesota, though. uh, Green Bay at San Francisco. Honestly, I was thinking about making this my lock of the week, but with my own perspective, I'm so confident about picking San Francisco that I feel like it's almost makes it ineligible for a lock of the week. But tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I feel the same way. The one thing I will say is San Francisco's running back room has been going through some injuries. Elijah Mitchell isn't going to be playing. It's going to be Trey Sermon, and he has a concussion that he's coming back from last week. And Green Bay's defense has been pretty good against running backs. And that's saying something, seeing that they played Alvin Kamara week 1, but uh, I mean, he didn't really play much in that game either because the Saints were just blowing him out. I think they pulled him. And then DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams last week. But San Fran has had Green Bay's number all the time. The past 3 years, they've had their number, especially at home. I think it'd be stupid to not pick San Fran here, especially if Aaron Rodgers is just going to be uh, being a psycho and just throwing to the guys he wants to throw to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, we're still on the Rodgers is playing like a maniac train at this point in time, and with that being said, I think that limits them, and it limits them against a team that has had their number, especially when they've had to go to San Francisco to try to play them. I think the Packers beat them once when their team was completely, destroyed last season, but I'm not counting that. When this team has been any bit healthy, they've handled the Packers, and honestly, I just don't see that changing. If they finally are able to make this game a close one, I may have to think about this matchup in the future, or even win it. I guess I shouldn't completely write them off. But with that being said, just because of the way San Fran's handled this series in recent years when both teams have been healthy, I'm pretty confident picking the 49ers, especially when Aaron Rodgers is purposely limiting himself and his ability.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how you can't.
Of course. And then the final game of the week is Philadelphia heading to Dallas. I have to say, once again, NFC East matchup. So I don't know how annoyed you are with this. I haven't gotten upset about watching the NFC East matchups yet because it's still early in the season, but I'm interested to see what happens in this one. I'm I have feelings about the Cowboys and feelings about the Eagles, and I'm just ready to see if they're accurate. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I am too, but I think our feelings might be a little different here. I want this game's to confirm some stuff for me. Uh, I know that Dallas's offense is good. I saw it in week one, opening game of the season. I saw it that their offense is good. But in order for them to keep that game close, was they need to take advantage of sloppiness. Thing is, the Eagles' offense, I mean, it's led by a second-year QB, and his only real target is his friend from college. So that can result in some sloppiness too. You're also having a rookie head coach in there as well. Uh, but I think Philly's offense could take advantage of Dallas's defense. Both of these teams' offenses could take advantage of the defense. If that Atlanta Giant or Falcons Giants game doesn't go the way I want it to, I hope this game goes the way I want it to. Mainly because it's prime time as well. Uh, but this could be a fantastic game, even though I hate NFC East matchups. Just back to back to back to back. Terrible, especially in prime time. But this one could be great. And the thing is, a lot of Dallas Cowboys got inducted to the Hall of Fame this year. They're all going to be there. Jerry Jones is going to be inducting some former players into the Cowboys Ring of Honor. What better way to ruin that? Especially Drew Pearson, who just rubbed it into the Eagles. The draft that was held in Philadelphia. Just rub it into Drew Pearson. Ruin his special night for the Eagles to go into Jerry World and get a dub. I'm going with Philly here in an upset.
I mean, okay, I don't know. I mean, I told you I liked Nick Sirianni before the season started, and I still, I mean, the roster's questionable, but he's got them playing pretty well, and the offense. We talked about this simplicity thing over the offseason and how you were like, geez, really? He's going to say the offense is simple? It really is pretty simple. It's basically looking at the defense, seeing where, at least this was my interpretation watching week one. I'll say I didn't watch week two, but week one, it was as simple as this. It's where's the numbers advantage, and that's where we're going to go with the ball. It's that simple, but I mean, that's kind of something that I would say is it's something that I've talked about with you in the past. Maybe not so much on here, but just talking in terms of getting creative with stuff. It's really one of the most efficient ways, in my opinion, to run an offense. So I really like what Philly's got going on the offensive side of the ball. As for their defense, I think, and I mean, I should say with Philly's offense, I think that type of scheme could really make up for the fact that they don't have too many playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. But another thing that's probably pretty underrated, especially early in this season with the Eagles, is, and that we probably honestly underrated, is the fact that I still have I'm pretty confident in their O-line just because of some of the vet presence they have on it. Then on the opposite side of the ball for the Eagles, it comes down to like pass rush and, their ability to get after the quarterback, really. I think this team is helped a lot by the big boys on both sides of the ball. Against Dallas specifically, Dallas's defense, not as bad as last year, I would say, so far through 2 weeks of the season. So that's a good thing. But in terms of like stopping the Eagles, I don't think they'll be able to stop them fully. I think they'll be able to stop them a little bit though. And that's important because I think the Dallas O-line versus the Philadelphia D-line will hold up well enough that it'll make it hard for the Eagles to get a stop, because I think that's really where they need to win on defense to be able to slow a team down. And I don't necessarily think that they're going to have great matchups against the Dallas O-line to be able to do that. So I think still Dallas will be able to move the ball well against this team. And I think Dallas wins this Monday Night Football game in a shootout. And honestly, I think it'll be a really good game, which isn't necessarily what we expected probably prior to the season, just because these teams record-wise last year, neither of them were very good. But I am excited for this matchup for probably what I'm expecting to be a high-scoring game, and honestly, probably better than the Sunday night game, just in my own opinion.
Uh, yeah, I would say better than the Sunday night game just because I don't know what version of Aaron Rodgers I'm going to be getting. I mean, if it stays consistent, we're just going to be the I don't care Aaron Rodgers, and that game's not going to be fun because of that. Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott are going to be playing their butts off, especially Jalen Hurts, because if he has any kind of off game, he's got Gardner Minshew breathing down his neck. So, yeah, this game has the potential to be way better than that Sunday night game.
Yeah. So with that, we got all our picks in for the week. My favorite question of the week. What's gonna make you look stupid this week?
Let me just if Jeez, what is going to make me look stupid this week?
I'll go
I,
first if you want me
yeah,
to go
yeah,
first.
yeah. You go first.
Me going first is a game that you picked as your upset. If Washington comes out and does as I said that you described and just is able to use the scheme that has worked well for the two teams we've faced in the first 2 weeks of the season, where you get heavy pressure on the right side of Josh Allen and push him to his left, where he seemingly has forgotten how to rotate his body at all. Then he'll probably look bad again this week. He's been looking bad basically no matter how he's been throwing the ball, but even more so with this weird dropping to the left type of thing that he's been doing, really getting into some bad habits. Still early season, so Josh Allen has his fumbling issues. And honestly, Washington could be able to run away with the game against the Bills if they're able to do that, because I'm confident that Taylor Heineke is going to be able to move the ball at least somewhat efficiently, like put up 24 or 28 points maybe. I hope he doesn't, but that's what I think. And I could look bad picking the Bills if the Washington football team in the end is able to win by a few scores. That would make me look pretty bad.
Yeah, yeah. Wouldn't be fun for me to watch because I'm gonna be there. But what's gonna make me look stupid, not just in this week, but for all my predictions that I had in the past about this team. If the Pittsburgh Steelers finally get it through and realize that they need to run an efficient passing offense where Ben Roethlisberger does not throw the ball more than 30 times a game, if they realize it in this game, I think they start winning a lot more than what I think they will. And
So what's
beat the
that mean?
Bengals.
Hand the ball to Najee like 25, 30 times?
Yeah.
Eh. I'd be man. I'd be really surprised. But okay, if they do that though and they win in this scenario, what is the final score to that game?
24-17.
24-17. Okay. I mean, that's still a good amount of points for like ball control offense. But all right. Are y'all set?
Yeah, I think we can cut this here.